Okay, so whenever you put a brand new cord on your cue machine, you're gonna most likely it's gonna come in a kind of a roll like this. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna place the cord inside the grid, and then we're gonna cut it to the size we need. Now, when you look at this cord, it's actually not square; it's rectangular, and one side is going to be narrower than the other, and you'll see that the side, it looks like you can see the foam, but the top and the bottom are shinier. The top and the bottom are actually what's going to fit inside the channel like this. If you try to fit it this way, it just won't fit. You'd have to really squish the cord to get it in there. This cord is meant to just drop right in place inside the grid like that. You shouldn't have to stretch it or push it down or do anything stressful like that. So when we're setting up a panel for the first time, what I like to do is start the cord in the center of a square. So you don't want to start it necessarily in the channel area. You want to start it right in the center of the square like this. And then simply just push it down. You'll notice it sticks up very little amount here on the sides. It doesn't need much for your spoil board to compress on top of it. So when we get to a corner, what we're going to do is, you don't want to stretch it. So when you get to the corner, you're just going to simply take it, bend it 90 degrees, and then push it down. And you'll see that it kind of falls right into the corner. You'll get a little bit of a gap right on the inside here, but it just smoothly goes into the corner. The whole time we do this, we're just laying it in, and I'm using my index finger to push it right into the channel. I'm going to come to another corner here, and I am simply bending it around the corner. I'm not stretching anything. I'm just letting it kind of guide right into the channel. Let's bring some more over here. And then again, when we get to the corner, all we're doing is just bending it 90 degrees and pushing it down. We're not stretching it. We're not pushing it into the corner. Just let it do its thing. And we'll ride that all the way down. Last corner. Okay, now when we get to the joint where this is, we could use a pair of scissors. And what you want to do, what I usually do is, instead of going right even with the other cord, I try to go like maybe a 1/16 inch longer. And then you just simply butt it up to it and push this down. Now you have a nice seam that no air is going to leak out of it. So that's how you would set up a panel if it was new. Okay, so in the previous video, I showed you how to lay the cord out into a complete square panel or grid panel on the machine. Now, what we need to look at here is the grid on this Q series machine is actually wider than 4 feet. So depending upon which side of the machine you have the pop-up pins installed on will determine how we're going to position this cord. So as an example, on this machine, the pop-up pins are over here on this side. So if we measure from the pop-up pin out, we're going to find that this cord now is outside of the 48 inches. So if we lay a spoil board down here, we're going to get vacuum leakage out here. So we need to move this cord inward so that it's inside the 48 inch. Consequently, if your pop-up pins are installed on this side of the table, then we're going to do the same thing with this cord on this side. So the nice thing about the Q is that the table is wider and longer than a standard 4x8 or 49 by 97 inch piece of MDF. So in this case, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to shorten this. Now, when you get your machine, you're going to get your machine with the cord all the way out on all sides on each panel. So the one thing you're going to have to do before you put your spoil board on is you're going to have to adjust the side of the cords opposite your pop-up pins. So how to do that? It's pretty simple. We're just going to pull the cord back. It's a little hard I don't have any fingernails, so it's a little hard to get it in. All right, so there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, and I know that I need the cord to go right here on this. So I want to have 2 channels. So I'm going to come back two channels, and this is where the edge, so if we put a 48-inch panel on there, it's going to come up right on this side of the cord. We always want to make sure that the cord is underneath the material that we're working on. If it's outside, then the vacuum will leak outside the grid. So we're going to come down here, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to gently push this down into the track, into the channel, and then we're going to bring it over. We're going to do a 90-degree corner here. Now, what I don't recommend, because we give you a piece that's big enough to do the entire perimeter of each panel, I don't recommend cutting this, because if you ever for some reason needed to expand this back, say you had a piece that was wider but not as long or whatever, then you don't have enough cord at that point. So we're giving you the maximum amount of cord you would need for each panel. So a little trick that you can do here is we take this cord and we run. So what we want to do is run this cord to the edge of the grid, just like this. And we're going to push it back a little bit. It's going to seem like it wants to bunch up, but it won't. If you push it in, it'll stay in the channel, but it'll be on the edge here. And then we're going to take this cord and we're just going to simply run a 90-degree corner, and we'll let it come out like this. So now this cord bumps into the corner here. The vacuum is totally secured. This piece doesn't matter because vacuum's getting around it because with the grid. But now this grid is set up so that when we put the 48-inch piece of plywood or put our spoil board on here, that from the pop-up pin to this side of the cord, we have vacuum secured in the entire spot. Okay, so anytime you need to do something like that, like for instance, say I wanted to put a smaller piece on, maybe I just want to have a piece of material that's really small, like, I don't know, maybe this size here, let's just say. So I'm going to bend 90 degrees. And again, I'm not pushing or stretching. I'm letting it just kind of fall naturally. Now I can come back here and I can do the same thing. I can either take this cord back and bring it up, but the easiest thing here is just to take this cord and I'll bend it. And yes, it is longer than what I need. But if I were to take it and bend it here like this, and then let's just say I bend it one more time back, this cord is not affecting anything negatively inside the grid, because the vacuum, once the material's on top, the vacuum is going to go through all of these grids. It's going to come around here and around here, and you're going to have a lot of hold down. So even though this extra piece is in the middle, it doesn't affect the hold down force at all. So you can expand this grid as small or as large as you want. You just want to make sure that where the two pieces come together, that there's not a gap there. So you want to make sure that this piece butts up into the corner. So when your material goes down, everything is going to stay in place. So we make this so it's super flexible, so you can do anything you want, and you've got a lot of material, and you've got a high power vacuum to use to secure any piece of material within the space of the machine and within the space of the vacuum panel. Okay, so to explain the operation of the vacuum table, this vacuum table on the Q Series machine has 4 zones to it. And you'll see on the front, we've got 4 red handles and labeled on and off. And then below that, we have a graphical diagram showing which panels are on. So the panels that are outlined in red, like these here, that is the panel that is on. So on the left of the machine, that valve controls the rear panel. The next one is the front 2 panels. Then we have the front right 2 panels, and then the right rear panel. So the way this works is there's 4 zones here, but on the table, you'll see that there are 6 vacuum holes. This small panel and this panel right here are plumbed together. So when you turn that valve on, these 2 panels work as one. Same thing on the other side. The back panel here and that back panel on that side are independent, so they run on their own. So there's a valve that turns those on and off separately. We will have a pair of plugs that will go with each machine, that if you wanted to do a small project just on this front panel, when you turn the vacuum on, you'll hear all the air leak out of here. The air is going to take the path of least resistance. So if nothing's plugging up this hole and we have a piece of material here, this panel, all the air is going to come out and you won't have any hold down pressure. So we'll have a plug that you could put in here, and that will block off this port so that you can concentrate all the vacuum on this small port here. And consequently, if you want to do it the other way, you could do that. You could put the plug here and then do something here. If you wanted to do a job that was going this direction and you needed the width, but you don't need both front panels, then you can plug this hole and that hole and set your cord up. And now you'd have these two working together to hold your material down. So we're doing this with a ton of flexibility so that it's easy to hold down any material, any size that you want, and make sure that you have superior hold down force so your job's not moving. So now on the front of the machine, to actually use a valve, every one of these right now is in the off position. So when it's horizontal, that's why we have off there, that is off. So every one of these valves right now are completely off. So if we want to turn on, let's just say the front right vacuum section, all we do is rotate this vertically, and now all the vacuum is being sent to these two ports. And again, if you want it just here or just there, we could put the plug in and that'll block off that one panel that you don't need. So normally when you're doing a full, say you're putting a full spoil board on here, a 4x8 sheet of MDF, you want to make sure that all your vacuums are on so that you're holding down the material evenly across the whole table. If you have one valve off by some chance and you go to surface a spoil board, it's possible that the side that's off, the board will still suck down, but it won't be pulled down evenly across the table. And then what ended up happening is you'll surface off a high spot because that material is sticking up. And then later, if you're like, oh, I forgot, and you turn your valves on, now you're pulling it down, and that part of the material is going to be lower than the rest of it. So whenever you're surfacing a spoil board that uses the whole machine, make sure your cords are all inside the spoil board. So when your board's on, you should never see a black cord along the outside, and make sure all your valves are on.